In this video, I'll be utilizing the garment that we drew in the previous video to illustrate how to fill it with your prints, add your background colors, how you might use the appearance panel, and how you can also create color blocking. To get started, I'm going to use my black arrow to select the individual sleeves and the body. Okay, these are the areas that I'll be filling with my prints. Remember, the interior will always be gray, so please don't adjust that to any other kind of fill. All right, so obviously I didn't create prints, so what I'll be utilizing for this exercise is some of the existing patterns, and I'm going to grab maybe basic graphics textures, and I'll go ahead and place a pattern on this, or a print I should say. Okay, and just while I'm running through these, actually I want to point out that if anyone wants to use mesh on their project, this graphic texture diamond is really helpful for that. You can scale it down and make it smaller, but I'm going to continue to find a print that I feel like working with. And it really doesn't matter because this is for teaching purposes, but I can be a little finicky and, I'll just move forward with this. All right. So I do want to point out that obviously I was filling this with a print. This is representational of your print. And obviously you want to make sure that your fill is on top as you're doing this. You don't want to be applying your prints to the stroke because obviously you won't be able to see it. Okay, so got my fill, I've used a print. Clearly this is transparent because I can see through to the croquis. So remember, we want to go ahead and open our appearance panel at this point, because we need to add an additional fill layer, okay? So if you feel like this was any more complicated than your swatches were for project 3, it's not, okay? Remember, this is exactly the same thing. We're just working with objects. Yes, your rectangle was a little bit simpler. Yep, the t-shirt maybe looks a little bit more complicated, but it's the exact same process, okay? So I've got my fill that is representational of the print, and I just need to add another fill layer. Okay, I need to make sure I have them ordered correctly. So the print is going to be on top. Here I can grab a different background color. Okay, and now I potentially have my print in my garment the way that you may want it to appear. Okay, but one of the first things that tends to come up when you fill with prints is that the scale is going to look significantly different than it did in your swatch. Okay, it just does. When you put something in a garment versus just a rectangle, you're going to notice that what you thought was going to work may not at the same scale. So you're going to want to adjust it. And while I don't allow you to change your print, you can definitely change the scale of it. So go ahead and fix that. So I've got these objects selected. Okay, I can use my scale tool, or I can come up to Object, Transform, and Scale. Okay. Remember that we are scaling the pattern, nothing else. So don't make sure none of these are selected. Transform pattern is turned on, my preview is turned on. But you're going to see that if I start to scale this, nothing's happening. Okay, and the reason for that is that I need to make sure I'm on my fill layer here. So click on my fill layer, run through the exact same process. Okay, Object, Transform, Scale. And now if I come over and scale this, you'll see it's already working actually, and it's scaled a little too small. So I'll try maybe 75%. I can even go above 100, so maybe I'll try 125%. Okay, but obviously I'm scaling that. Okay, I'll go ahead and hit OK. And maybe at this point I realize that, what would this look like if the sleeves were scaled really differently? Okay, I could come in and scale those independently. Maybe I'll make these really small. Okay, so that's something that you might consider doing for your project to add a little bit more interest. I also could say, you know what, I don't want a print at all on those areas. Maybe I'll do a contrasting fill. Okay, so that's something that you might consider doing as well. Okay, so remember on this project, you're definitely using your prints. All of your garments need to represent your print in some capacity, but you can definitely bring in color blocking, and you are not limited to your 6 colors. You can certainly come in and play with other colors. I know some of you didn't use black as one of your colors, but when we look at athletic wear, we see a lot of black. So maybe that's something that you want to add here, and you're free to do that. Think of it as going to the fabric store and shopping for something. Okay. All right, so I've got my print, I've got some solids. What else can I do? Okay, now I want you to remember that this is your print, but maybe, you think that this shirt would be a little bit more dynamic if you used your print and also mixed in one of those basic graphics that I told you that you could use. So if I turn this back on, I'll turn off my fill color for a moment so you can see. Again, I could come in and use like a stripe or something very, very basic. Because again, when you think about athletic wear, it's usually something printed like a floral motif, and then it may have some sections, some paneling that are striped or dotted, again, just for a little movement and contrast and interest. So again, this is something you might consider doing. Okay. Now, for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove all of the color, all of the prints. I'm just going to go back to my plain round white. And I'm doing this because I want to talk about how you can introduce paneling to your garment, whatever it is, whether it's t-shirt or pants. And I just think it'll be a little bit easier for you to see if I'm using a solid white background. Okay. Now, the best way to do this is to use your pen tool, okay, and draw out where you want this color blocking or this paneling, whatever it's going to be. You draw where you want that to occur. And so using my pen tool, the only thing you need to be really conscientious of is that you fully cross over the border of your shirt. Okay, so you'll see obviously this is on the outside of the t-shirt. It will generally work if you stop, very much on this path, but often students and just new users miss that. So I think it's easier to simply make sure that you're fully crossing over the boundary of the shirt because you can clean that up later. So in this case, I could split my t-shirt into two halves, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create more of a true panel. So I'll create another line here. Okay? And, I could leave the lines straight, but in this instance, again, just to illustrate how to do things, I'm going to curve them. And so I'll grab my anchor point tool. I'm going to drag that up. Maybe I'll drag that one down. Okay. All right. Next is I need to make sure that I have the body selected. I need this path selected and this path. Okay. So I've selected those individually holding the shift key. I could have also just done a quick selection using Black Arrow to grab those pieces as well. And then what I'm going to use is my Shape Builder tool. Okay. We used this previously. And what you'll see here is that when I hover, okay, it's designating these areas for me. Now this looks perfect, this looks perfect, this one looks a little weird, and that's because I have a white fill on this open path, and so that looks a little strange. So I'm going to back off for a moment. I'll select this path and this path, okay, and just turn off that white fill. Okay, I'll make the same selection again, grab my Shape Builder tool. Okay, and you'll see that that looks different now. So I just want to make sure you understand why that happened and how you can quickly fix that so you're not confused. All right, so I'm going to simply click, click, and click. All right, now I've got 3 distinct sections. And I want to illustrate that we know that that is distinct because if I come a little closer, you're going to see, okay, that that's been segmented. Now, instead of that being one consistent path all the way across the body, it's been broken up. And so now I can really easily clean this up by clicking on the outer anchor and hitting delete. Hitting delete. Okay. Whoop, I'll do that on both sides. Okay. And now what I can do with my Black Arrow is select these areas and I'll just quickly fill them with color so you can see that that worked. Okay. Because there's no fill, I actually do need to click on the stroke. And then maybe I'll fill this one with a print and go to my appearance panel and just quickly add a background fill. Okay, so that is adding segments or panels to your garments. I'm going to type out those instructions and add them so you can follow them step by step in the module. but it is a replay of a lot of material that we have covered previously. So hopefully at this point, that's feeling a little bit more familiar and something that is much more accomplishable for you at this point.